One. Welcome to the show, Eliza. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
And so you're an actress in the DC area, Northern Virginia, Maryland area.
Yep.
The whole tri-state area.
Now going into producer title as well.
That's awesome. Awesome. And so Eliza, give me, how about you go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, what you've been up to lately.
Well, I am ELIZA KELLEY, and I'm an actress producer in the DC area and have done some production work out in California as well. And of course, with COVID and what I'm doing now, that's kind of a matter of what we can get going, with all the new rules and everything like that, and smaller casts and stuff. So just have been working on my own businesses. I got cut loose from my career of 20 years working for a family school. So I've been working on my life coaching businesses, my financial services businesses, and now my producer entity as well. Awesome.
Awesome. And so how are projects, how's it looking for the DMV for the next 6 months to a year? Because I'm a filmmaker, production coordinator, AD, director, writer, also, but in the last 5 or 6 years, I've been acting. So I'm kind of interested in how things are, what your viewpoint of how things might be picking up.
Well, I think, it's going to be different from an indie standpoint versus regular industry. And I do think that I think this is a real opportunity for indie production to thrive, to be honest, because the big productions aren't going to be able, I don't think the big productions are going to be able to happen. So hopefully that funding that normally goes into bigger productions will then trickle down to the indie productions. I know that Mark Unger with Thespian, the series, which I'm a part of, has started filming again, I think as of today, actually, and just taking the precautions and really, in our community in the DMV, we're so close knit. You've kind of got your little film family groups, almost pods per se. So I think as long as it's handled in the right way and everybody's opinions and feelings are respected, I think that there's an opportunity to almost springboard off of this little break. And I'll tell you from my standpoint, nothing stopped behind the scenes while this has been going on. Matter of fact, it's almost been easier to work behind the scenes because nothing's going on in front of the camera. So you kind of start, moving in that direction of when we can, this is exactly what's going to happen and what we're going to do. So, and I actually have a short film trailer that I'm producing that we're going to shoot in beginning of September. That has actually been, it was a script that was written during COVID. And just when opportunity presents itself, it's kind of go time.
Yeah. I was lucky enough to where I was able to, I had a number of things shot in the can. So I was able to edit those in the can, so to speak, but yeah, on the hard drive. But, I was able to sit down and just, spend days and days editing and hours upon hours of editing.
Because you had nowhere else to go anyway.
Exactly. And it was, it was a number of passion projects. It was a number of couple of short films, an interview, kind of like a docu interview type of maybe web video, something that might spark into something else, a number of different little things that I was able to just sit down and focus on. A lot of writing and a lot of prep and a lot of, readjusting ideas too. And still finding different ways and, different workarounds, different production hacks to try to knock stuff out. But how would you say you've been impacted professionally the last 6 months?
Well, professionally, from an actor standpoint, not as much, because I did do a lot of indie projects. And I can't say that I was, it's not like I was working every month already. My auditions have not really ebbed too much, maybe in that first couple of months. But then when people started realizing that, Zoom was a valid shooting standpoint, and then I actually booked a gig that I shot from home on Zoom. It was
Right.
really like 10 minutes of my time. I was like, this is amazing. I like this.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, like I said, I really only broke out into acting, you know, part-time, or even, you know, a couple of years it was full-time acting, but professionally acting, you know, for the past 5 years. And even then it was a lot of self-submits, even in 2014, 2015, 2016.
Yeah.
It was
So I don't,
self-submit this,
from my
self-submit that.
standpoint,
Yeah.
that none of that has changed. I mean,
Right.
it's kind of, you know, status quo.
Now it's like the normal.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think it's really, again, I think it's going to be a great opportunity for people to break into the industry a little differently than maybe they used to have to. Everything is so digital and video based now that maybe managers and agents will hold those meetings instead of in person on Zoom anyway. So, yeah, I haven't really, I know other people are struggling, that, you know, this was their only source of income, but I think everybody needs to understand that we can be completely resourceful and use our talents in other ways to make that money, whether it's on camera or not.
Yeah. I know a lot of filmmakers, a lot of actors, a lot of musicians that just jumped into, you know, financial, you know, stocks, like started jumping into the stocks and finding, like, you know, fun little ways of taking some extra cash and just trying to put it in there. I had a number of colleagues start, you know, podcasts and things like this. Like I started this because in the, you know, late March and early April, I had absolutely nothing. And then things started picking up with, you know, the virtual gigs and virtual conferences and all sorts of different virtual shows. Definitely everybody's utilizing Zoom and just like I'm doing with this podcast, I'm taking Zoom, and putting it into another you know, program and then streaming it out. And so that's been pretty much it since mid-April. But, you know, it's unique to see that we've, you know, found a way to, you know, adjust fire and like persevere. And
I was talking to a DJ. I guess
Mhm.
he's DJ for 15 years, and, you know, that is his source of income. And he said it's been amazing because they've transitioned into DJing virtually. I'm like, oh man, how does that work? And he said, you know, with some people, as long as they're prepared, it works really well, and you can still get that same vibe. And it's just fascinating to me that, I mean, humans adjust, you know?
Yeah. I've actually done a number of live DJ streams for a couple of colleagues that are DJs as well. And I wish we had better viewership, but but, you know, like, yeah, that's definitely, you know, the other thing. And it's funny because you got a number of musicians, a number of DJs, a number of EDM artists that have been on Twitch and YouTube Live doing this for years. And so they just said, well, yeah, shit, I've been doing this already. And now it's at the level where Steve Aoki and Deadmau5 and some other artists are, you know, performing in Fortnite, in the game Fortnite.
Yeah.
But it's astounding the way that people are able to just, you know, cut a sharp right turn when shit happens, you know.
Yep.
It's amazing. So how about personally? I mean, have you been coping personally? I hope it's all good.
Yeah, well, the first month it was actually great because I had the time to stop. You know, I couldn't do anything but stop, and didn't have to take the kids anywhere to their school stuff. And we homeschool anyway, so that didn't affect us too terribly. Our co-ops ended as well, but other than that, you know, we only did that once a week anyway. But it gave me time to reestablish relationships with them by going to the park, doing things, and it was so fabulous. But after that first month, it was a little rough.
The shining started kicking in, right?
Yeah, and you know, I call myself an extreme extrovert, and I have only in the past couple of years really understood the difference between extroverts and introverts. And like, at first, it was really interesting to watch the introverts kind of go through what extroverts normally do.
Mm-hmm.
But then, and I said, well, I think I'm doing okay because all you people who are not normally available to me are suddenly available online. You're all right there and you're always there. So now I'm good. But
Right.
then I still needed to see people in person and it kind of went downhill after that. So, just kind of adjusting to understanding your own personality, really learning what it is you need to get through those kind of situations. I started my life coaching business in January, and I have actually found that through my own struggles, it's been great to help other people because by me working with them, I'm also working on myself at the same time, because I can hear myself say what I'm saying to them. So
yeah. And
I've been coping.
yeah, I mean, this has definitely been an interesting, test on me as far as prioritizing and time management, family, the wife and the baby boy. Like you said, I think it's been great for me and the kid. We just recently had a kid, and it's just been, full hands-on nonstop every day. And then it's like, okay, so how do I fit in, the productions and the passion projects? And get away with some video games. Even at 40, I still like playing video games because
It's your outlet.
yeah. I'm not sure what generation you grew up in, but I'm sure you were at least PlayStation. So
I was never a gamer. My
but,
family, yes, I grew up in that era, but my family, our TV, we had our TV when I was little used to sit on the floor behind the couch in the living room. So it wasn't on clearly. And then even into middle school and high school, I think in middle school, I still had a black and white TV. Like my parents just that was not a priority.
mm-hmm.
And we certainly didn't have cable. We only had 5 channels. So everybody was talking about Beverly Hills 90210. And I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, that's not a bad thing. I think that's a good thing for parents to at least kind of like limit it
Yeah.
and push the kids outside or push the kids onto like arts or something. But for me, yeah, it was a lot of TV. I mean, of course, I was out doing sports and stuff like that, and skateboarding, and the parents would push me out. But my dad was a big movie buff. My mom was a big movie buff, so I guess that's where it stemmed from. And I decided to make it a career. Like you have your friends, and again, maybe you don't know this because you didn't watch too much TV, but me and my friends would always sit around and like make up sequels. What it would be so cool.
Right.
It'd be so cool if I think we saw Predator 2 with Danny Glover. And we saw an alien skull on the ship, and we're like, dude, that was an alien skull. What if they did it? And then 20 years later, they make an Alien versus Predator movie.
Like, they listened. Oh my God, they were watching us.
Yeah, but but then again, you realize you're not the only one out there with these ideas, and you want.
Yep.
And then it's like, wow, let's make something of this and collaborate, and it just turned into. That's, I guess, kind of where it turned into like. I'm always going to end up being some sort of filmmaker or storyteller or artist in that kind of arena. But
right.
Yeah. But this was, I mean, for me, for the most part, this last 5 months has definitely been, an adventure into how much can I accomplish at the house and of my own stuff instead of, like I've got a number of scripts that I want to produce that I've written. I've got a number of ideas that I want to, produce, but the bills got to get paid. And and luckily 6-7 years ago, or maybe more, just about 10 years ago, I've been full-time freelance.
Oh.
But I've been lucky enough to be able to pull off doing what I love for a living. That's what pays the bills, is doing what I love.
That's
and
great.
I had a couple of corporate jobs, Discovery Channel and some news stations. And then one day I decided to just, pull the trigger, work for myself, jump on whatever films, commercials, TV things I could get into. And the acting was a way to like fill in the blank spots in the schedule. And then that just turned into a full-time thing. And then it seemed like 1 year was acting and another year was crew. Another year was acting, another year was crew. I don't know how that, I don't know how that happens, but but yeah, like I said, I mean, it was just, but now, but then, even though I was loving what I was doing, it was a lot of times it was like those industrial training videos, or it's, you know,
filming one of those this next week, actually.
and then there's nothing wrong with those. Are great, but those aren't like action packed. You're not shooting guns, things aren't blowing up, you know, you're not covered in blood. And that's kind of like, that's, you're not, you know, covered in green slime or whatever the case may be.
Right.
But I mean, those are more my kind of, you know, genre type pieces. And, you know, like the live conferences. I mean, it's great. You get to travel or go to these different conferences, but it's, there's only so many tax law conferences I can, you know, deal with going to. But so on the other, what have you been watching? Have you been watching anything, to any movies, binge watching anything that stands out?
Yes. It also gave me permission to binge watch some things. I mean, originally in the beginning, before I knew I was going to lose my job, because I work for a private school, it was kind of balls to the wall, getting everything settled for the move over to the digital platforms and making sure I was working with the school to get all of that handled. And so I really delved into that, and that was great. And then I found out I was going to be losing my job. So I was like, well, now I have to go find something else to do. So I was doing a lot of training, didn't have time to watch anything. And then finally, everything just kind of settled, and I watched Westworld.
Mm-hmm.
I almost finished it. I have to transition to a different platform to be able to.
What was that? HBO Max now? We get.
Yeah. So I guess I can watch it on my phone, but I can't watch it on my Roku. So
yeah.
Okay. So in the meantime, I speak German and Spanish, and somebody alerted me to the show Dark on Netflix, which is a German show. And so in order to practice my German, I actually have the German subtitles on, and I'm listening to the German, which is really interesting because I'm like, oh, you didn't translate that the way that they said it. Okay. So, but I've just been, I think I'm on season 2 right now, and I can't stop watching it. It is absolutely amazing.
All right. That's on my list, but the most foreign the wife will go is Britain.
Well,
she won't even do London.
My oldest,
we still have to put subtitles on the British shows.
Well,
for her anyway.
Okay.
Because they're like, hide the body in the boot, and she's like, what do you mean a boot? It's the trunk. They got.
Yeah.
But you were gonna say? What were you gonna say?
Well, so my oldest, my 18-year-old, she's an actress as well, and she was the one who kind of, she forced me one night to watch one episode of a Korean show. And at first I thought, because a lot of times I will multitask and I'll watch a show and I'll work. So this forced me to sit and read. And I really thought I was going to get away with just watching one episode. Nope. That night I was like, next, push to the next episode right now. I mean, it was already like 1:00 in the morning. We stayed up way late watching, and so we've been watching a lot of Korean shows together, and that was kind of what started me on the foreign TV. And then I realized, well, why am I not watching German when I actually speak the language, And so, yeah, it's been, and then when I was reading the subtitles, I looked at her and I said, oh my God, this is the best of both worlds. I'm reading and I'm watching it in my head at the same time. So,
yeah.
Like, everything as an avid reader growing up, it's like everything right there on the screen that I ever thought was happening while I was reading anyway. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I found myself trying to read a couple of things, and they're like short, little pamphlets or like I don't know what you call it. No, they're not books. They're not really books, but they're ebooks. But I mean, they're probably only 50 pages, and it's like business stuff or entrepreneur stuff or there's another guest I had on wrote the 3-minute rule about how to pitch your idea in 3 minutes or less, because nowadays the people you're pitching to have the attention span of a pea. And so just trying to get 5 pages into it, I realized this is a what's the phrase? It's it's a skill that you need to keep sharp. Reading,
Yeah.
you know, just watching stuff is easy, and you know, I need to go back and like start writing more and reading more, because it's a oh, what's that phrase? It's a something skill. It's a what's that phrase? It's something that you'll lose. It's a skill you'll lose. It's not right like riding a bike. You'll never forget how to ride a bike.
Right.
But it's
well, I think it's the processing, perhaps, you know,
Yeah.
especially in this world that we live in with social media and everything in such snippets. So, and oftentimes the reason that I don't sit down to read is because when I read, I don't want to stop. And when kids came along, it was really hard to maintain that. And so if I started a book and wasn't able to finish it in one fell swoop, I just wasn't going to start it, because you know, and my kids have become this too. They'll finish a book in a day or two, and which is great. So
how is that possible?
What?
How is that physically possible? Okay.
Well, when you're homeschooled, you know, you get to just kind of delve into the things you want to delve into instead of being told.
I guess you're right. Yeah.
You know. My one daughter actually wrote a book, and she's on her second book. She's got a 450-page book that's published, and she's working on her second one, which I think is going to be longer. But so yeah, that, you know, all of that inspired them in those ways, and I think that's also what inspired my oldest to act. But yeah, reading is definitely the processing and delving in is, yeah, that's a skill that changes over time with what you're reading, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's on the agenda? What's on your agenda for the next 6 months? What a set of goals, or just a broad agenda?
Really digging into producer work, and trying really to do it in a more lucrative way than, so grabbing certain people on board with me. And then trying to continue auditioning and hopefully booking. So I've got this gig this coming week, which is a 3-day shoot, which is great. And then I piggyback on to that with the short film trailer that we're producing, or I'm producing. And I'm excited because then we're going to be working with Johnny Alonso again and El Toro Black, and just really bringing in the people that I have complete trust in. Shannon Lanier is going to be filming. And then even further down the road, working on expanding my life coaching business, hopefully, and my financial services business, which is my newest business. And that kind of coincides with my life coaching business, because it's all about mindset and financial change within people's lives and helping their dreams come true. So yeah, that's, if I had a common thread from the reason I homeschooled my kids in the first place, to becoming a life coach, to doing financial services, to producing and even acting, because one of the things that I realized why acting was so important to me was to be able to present those feelings or those characters that people see in themselves but can't ever express, or don't see on, you know, your regular TV. Being able to help people's dreams come true in any format.
Mm-hmm.
I think even when I was a teacher, way back when, that's actually how I got back into acting myself, was because I kept driving home to the teenagers that they should never give up their passions. Even if they were doing a regular job, do not give up your passion. And the problem was, that's exactly what I had done. I'd given up acting. So it wasn't long after that I went back to acting myself. And just with my kids and homeschooling, my whole point in that was to allow them to discover their passions and then be able to train them all along, instead of like, oh, well, let's take you through regular school and wait till you're, 18, 19. And then you can start studying why not go now? So, and even as a producer, that's my goal, is to make these worlds come together, help these worlds come together, where the, you know, being connected to certain people at higher levels and pulling other people through, and, you know, quality, just working all of that, people who deserve for their quality work to be seen.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's my goal in the next 6 months, is to really expand on all of those.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I agree. You know, right out of college, I got a job at Discovery Channel, and it was a great opportunity. I wasn't doing exactly what I wanted to do there, and I was getting itchy. I was taking every single weekend and working on a music video or working on an indie project, a short, you know, something. And I would use all my paid vacation time to take off and work on a project.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't taking trips to the beach or, you know, to like the mountains or anything. My paid vacations were maybe a stunt camp or you know, a feature film, you know, that I needed to take like a whole week to work on.
Yeah.
And I just started building up that reel. There was a couple of folks there that had issues with it, and I was getting a little friction with it. And I said, hey, look, you know, it's my vacation time. If I hadn't told you what it was, what
you wouldn't know.
what difference does it make, you know? And there was a little bit of friction I got with.
That's interesting.
Yeah, you know, but I guess I'm not gonna, you know, badmouth anybody, but there's people that just have issues with something for whatever reason that is. But
well, I think when you don't follow a path or a pattern that people believe is supposed to be set forth, even you have to have a backup plan concept. I fight that statement constantly. When people tell my kids, you have to have a backup plan, my immediate reaction is, no, they don't, because your backup plan, here's the thing. If your backup plan does not completely coincide with your A plan, you're going to spend more time working on your backup plan that takes you away from your A plan. And guess what you're going to end up doing? Your backup plan.
The backup. Yeah. The plan B, the plan B is going to end up being the plan A. Exactly.
Because there's no other way. There's no other choice. So my whole goal has been the entire time to guide into that training mode. Like, okay, great. You want to be an actress. Well, I know from my own experience, if I had more crew experience or if I had more production experience, I'd be working a lot more in any area of the business. Now, as a mother of 4, would I really be able to? Not necessarily, but you're 18. Go do it all. Go learn all the things. I know you like to, you know, she likes to be a screenwriter. She's made a lot of commentary about, wow, that shot was really beautiful. I was like, okay. So, you know, and even my writer kid, sending them through ways that they can be in that same industry, learn the entirety of the industry they want to be in, and have the ability to do anything within that aspect. That's backup plan in our world.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. All my backup plans have just been skills, different skill sets. You know, my major, like my main strategy backup of all backups was to be a jack of all trades and a master of maybe 1 or 2.
Right.
And the master of 1 or 2 would be directing, writing, and editing.
Right.
Would be what I could say I am a master of, because I've been doing it for so long. But live streaming, you know, I saw that as like a new thing popping up in the last 6-7 years. And I said, this is going to be the wave of the future. And luckily I jumped on that little technological skill, and knowing all the technical and creative and production, you know, aspects behind all that, so that now that's the only thing we have right now. Well, mostly anyway. And we're the doors are starting to open finally, but, and then acting. So, you know, about 10 years ago, I enlisted in the Army National Guard, and that's like part time. But I wanted to do that for stories, ideas, you know, because, you know, technical expertise as far as directing a war film or an action film. And I chose.
It's not usually the reason you hear behind somebody going into the military in any sort of format.
Of course, I needed, you know, a backup plan. Then, And, there's a lot of opportunities in the military with videography and photography and things of that nature. But, it turned into, okay, I learned a lot about, I chose military police corrections for my military job. And so a lot of people said, dude, that's basically your acting school. You can play military roles, you can play cops, you can play detectives, you can play correction officers, you can probably play thugs because of the inmates that you've dealt with in military corrections, sort of a little bit. And so like that's why 5-6 years ago I delved into acting, because that's pretty much what my acting school was. And it's just a number of different choices that have all culminated in trying to like build a stirring pot into like this whatever gets me on set. And so to touch upon your backup plan, whatever my backup plan is, if it gets me on set, I'm on set. I just love set life. I love making a movie, because
it's my Zen place, man. Even if I remember when I first got back into acting and started in the film area, and even just being an extra on a friend's film and not having my phone on me, I would just sit there and be so happy. I was like, I'm so calm right now. This is, this, and it made me realize that every time I went to set, this is my happy place. This is my Zen place. This is me. This is where I belong.
Yep. And so, I butt heads with a lot of colleagues and a lot of fellow entrepreneurs, actors, musicians, filmmakers, and they say, well, you have to follow the trend, or what's hot, or what are people watching? I'm like, bro, just do whatever the fuck you want to do.
Yeah.
Do whatever you want to do. Do what you love to do. But and then on top of that, you just got to pull the trigger on something. If you want to make music, it's not about like wasting all this time listening to other people's music. If you if you have a sound in your head, man, just put that sound out there.
Yeah.
And
I think this COVID period is actually opening all of that up a lot more, because the lack of choice, people are starting to realize that the world is clamoring for anything.
Right.
And for something new. And also it's with education, with the systems that are in place, everything is mentality wise, mindset wise, everything is changing. People are starting to realize the trend, the path doesn't have to be what everybody else says it is.
Right. Yeah. And especially with the internet, and it's a much bigger world, and there's so many more different devices. I mean, one day I'm watching Netflix and more of the hip, recent stuff is on Netflix or Hulu or Prime, and it's bigger budgeted stuff. But then I'm watching stuff like, Crackle and Pluto and Tubi, and it's old. It's like all this old stuff. I mean, there's so much content out there that there is, Tubi is just known for all the 80s and 90s B movies. But then there's new stuff that is, like paying homage to the 80s and 90s B movies.
Right.
It's all like these filmmakers that are just doing like wacky, crazy action. And there was a movie called Wolf Cop, and it's just so stupid and ridiculous, but it was hilarious. It was fun to watch. And it's a cop that gets, turned into a werewolf, and now he's running around with his uniform and his gun, and he's a wolf. And like, and like maybe back in the 80s, that would have been, like Teen Wolf.
Right.
That would have been like the third movie in the series is like Teen Wolf, Wolf Cop, But these guys decided to make that, and it's a quirky movie. There was what was the name of that movie? Anyway, I can't remember it. But Killing Hasselhoff, like they're making movies. They're making movies that are spoofing actors' careers. They're like all sorts of new stuff is coming out. People are taking risks and chances.
Yeah.
And the vendors, I guess you want to say, or distributors like Netflix, streaming platforms, whoever it is. I mean, HBO shot out HBO Max in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Peacock. Is that
right.
Is that NBC or CBS?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
NBC shot out Peacock in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
because and there's stuff on Peacock that I didn't even think was on that channel. But they have also, because everybody, I guess everyone's owning a part of everybody else or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's just content is king, and I think that's a huge plus for us in a smaller DMV market.
Yeah.
That's a huge plus for us wanting to like break out into larger markets.
Absolutely.
With independent projects, and like you said, this is the time now to just start kicking things into overdrive, start spamming people with emails and links. Yeah. So what would you say is your view of the new normal?
Well, I think it's going to have to be ever changing. I think that the new normal is going to have a different definition, week to week, practically, month to month.
Yeah.
I guess now more than ever, it's just adjustment, the ability to go with the flow, take the new normal and run with it, make it your own, kind of thing. Really being able to work within the parameters assigned, but also think outside the box. And that's going to be key to people creating their own content. And I mean, and even outside of the industry, education systems, everything, people are going to have to realize that there's no guarantee that anything is going to stay the same. There never ever was, but less now.
Yeah. And thinking outside the box, again, it's like production hacks. It's like finding a way to pull something off. And, a couple of years ago, I was even pushing like these weird ideas that you're seeing a lot of that, just weird ideas coming out. And it's almost like an I told you so game. But, a number of projects that I just kicked out that I decided to do in a totally different kind of production style. And, they're getting some hits or whatnot, but I think they have huge potential. But people are watching them, people are commenting. I'm getting, what little viewership I'm getting positive reviews. But
that's good.
It's like, like a year and a half ago, I was talking about, listen, we got no money to produce such and such, but let's do it in like, a motion comic kind of style, or let's take a look at like those old radio serials and try and maybe pull off like a podcast, and all these short film ideas are presented in like the old radio serial sort of style.
I'm in for that.
it's all voiceover work.
Yeah.
Nobody has to leave their house.
Yeah.
I just finished the second season of these two shows that are superhero shows produced in the vein of those ID crime shows. So the style, the production is like those ID crime shows, but it takes place in the different comic book universes. And I just reached out to a number of voiceover actors on a casting site, and listened to some of their demos. And I said, hey, here's a number of scripts. You got, get them back to me like a month or two. You got plenty of time. And by the time they did, I was ready to edit, and I knocked out all these episodes. And it's just finding, like I said, thinking outside the box, like, production hacks, and you're still telling the same story, and you're just trying new things. And the worst you could do is fail and readjust.
Yep.
Yeah. Like people are so afraid of going to auditions or even submitting the self-submit video submission, the video auditions. The worst thing they're going to do is say no.
Right.
And now, especially with video submissions and self-submits, you can knock out like 10 a day.
Right. Absolutely.
Maybe 5 a day. I don't know. If you got a 5-month-old like me, it's only going to be like 5 a day, and then you're going to hear screaming and you got to run upstairs or something. But
my friend Sarah and I, we keep saying we need to do a little YouTube channel about working with cats and kids, how to self-tape when you have cats and kids.
Cats and kids. Yeah.
It's a constant readjust, and.
Or yoga with pets. All those
Yeah,
all those yoga
exactly.
fails with the pets just jumping all over them. So you've been back on set, you
Not
said?
yet. This
Not,
week I will.
not yet.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. So, well, I was going to ask about COVID compliance. I'm actually going to take that COVID compliance officer cert,
Yeah.
and maybe that, and see, there's another way to get on set, you know?
Yeah.
But nowadays, you know, it's like adjusting. Okay. Well, they need COVID compliance officers, and, you know, I'm an AD. So,
Right.
and that'll lead to AD work, and then that'll lead to more AD work, and then director work and
Yeah.
producer work and things of that nature. But okay, so no COVID compliance stories yet?
Not yet. No.
No. Okay.
Just
Um,
what's listed on the here's what you have to do when we're on set thing, you know.
yeah, yeah. My last acting gig, I think, was March 12th. It was an acting gig on one of those ID crime shows, and they you know, it was starting to kick in, the whole
Yep.
fear, the whole COVID fear. And so there was hand sanitizer, there was only, you know, snacks. They weren't serving food.
Right.
But they booked out this whole property, and it had this huge restaurant, but the restaurant was shut down, so everybody sat, you know, far apart, and all the different tables and
Mhm.
booze, Clorox wipes everywhere, hand sanitizer everywhere. So even then, this one production did it right.
Yeah.
But now it's all about masks, obviously,
Yeah.
because I think soon after that gig, you know, things started shutting down, things started canceling out, and then it was just mask this and mask that, and
Yeah.
yeah, so it's rough. But is any
It's definitely something, you know, as producer of the trailer that we're going to do, and our filmmaker is already COVID certified. So,
awesome.
and I think our makeup artist has already gone through all of her training and has all the gear that she needs and everything. So, you know, that as a producer from the producer side of things it's something that definitely weighs on me, because I don't necessarily, it's not the first thing I think about.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh wait, have to make sure that we're doing everything the way we're supposed to do it, and that we don't have too many people on set, and that we have, you know, so luckily when you're working with a good group of people, everybody collaborates, and everybody's gonna have like a piece of information to share and make sure that things are handled properly.
So what's the trailer for? I think I know you went over it just a second ago, but let's still do that.
Yeah. So again, it was one of the, so I recently produced and starred in a film in California called The Darkness Before Me. And the writer, who's in Pennsylvania, he and I were actually connected years ago on a project, never met until just about a month ago. So we had talked over the years, and he had sent me scripts of his just to show what his writing style was like. The project that we were working on together, we both kind of abandoned that. But then we talked one day on the phone, and it just became very clear that he was entrusting me with his work, and it was go. And so then I was heading out to California, and I decided to ask my actor friend, Adani Maropis, out there, who I was going to be staying with. I was like, hey, would you mind taking a look at this script? Tell me if you want to shoot this while I'm there. And he did. And so we did. So we became Adani, Joe, and I, Joe DiFrancesco is his name. The three of us became very close, and we're working so well together. So during this COVID period, Joe kept sending scripts over. I'm like, I want to produce that one too. I want to produce that one. I want to like, let's do this. So of course, the concept of, well, you know, we can't really film the entirety of it during shutdown and all of that. But so then Johnny Alonso, he made a comment that he was coming back east. I was like, so when you're back, do you want to film? So it just kind of snowballed, and it, you know, I do well under pressure, I guess, and I get the ball rolling and I make things happen. And we had an original date set, but then some other things kind of transitioned. And so, you know, we pushed it a little bit, but yeah, beginning of September. So it's called Last Call. And It's a thriller / horror kind of film, psychological thriller horror. And it was funny because I was reading it, and Joe, he's just this great guy. And I'm reading, I'm like, where is this darkness coming from? Like, holy cow. And it was, at the end of the script, my mouth just dropped open. I couldn't believe what I was like, okay, I did not pick up on that. Oh my God. So I'm really excited to, I only have a small part in it, no lines, and I am going to enjoy watching everybody else kind of carry the film.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm familiar with Johnny Alonso from, just
everything,
from everything. If you're a filmmaker in the DMV, especially Baltimore area, you're familiar with Johnny Alonso. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I'm connected with him on a number of platforms. And
yeah.
So, he ran Cinema Lounge, like 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else? Yeah. And I remember some of the other folks that you mentioned. I definitely heard of them, seen them, and might have worked with them once or twice somewhere.
Yeah, but, probably.
Yeah, but just a lot of indie stuff, in the area. So yeah, that's all. That's awesome. Eliza, any last bit of advice for our viewers out there?
I think, just keep your head up and keep pushing forward, even in the times of darkness and low feeling. There's always some work to be done, whether it's on yourself or on your craft, whatever that craft may be.
Awesome. Well, Eliza, I can't thank you enough. Any socials, links, plugs you want to put out there?
Sure. I am on several platforms: LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. On Facebook, ELIZA KELLEY, KELLEY. Instagram at Actress Eliza, Twitter at Actress Eliza, and LinkedIn. I don't know how that, just ELIZA KELLEY again. So KELLEY. IMDb, of course. Yeah, that's.
Well, awesome. I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. To my viewers out there, all of Eliza's links are in the description below. You know what to do. And thanks for watching, and check us out next time.
Thanks for having me.
Now you bet.